Morning, everybody. I'm super excited to welcome Bryn Jones, co-founder and CEO of PartnerStack. Bryn, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Excited to have the conversation.
I know we've been talking for a while, and from a market perspective, a lot of companies or organizations think we call our solutions partner relationship management, so we are kind of similar. We're actually not. We're very, very complementary. So I've been talking to you about how to sort of educate the market base in a broader level. So I'm super excited and looking forward to the conversation today.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me in. I know that we talk about partnerships all day long, and it's really important to say that we believe in partnerships. And that's why I've enjoyed our discussions so much. I think it's really important that we all drink our own champagne and ultimately maximize value for our customers, right?
Very true, very true. So let's start with you a little bit before we get into, some of the trends you're seeing now and where we're going. I'd love to, hear a little bit about your story. And, our audience is about 600,000 subscribers. I'm sure a lot of the folks know you, but those who don't know, please introduce yourselves a little bit and the journey at PartnerStack.
Yeah, I had a very non-standard way to land myself inside of partnerships, as all of us do who are in partnerships. My background is, I always like to say that I'm really an athlete turned entrepreneur. Grew up in Canada, swam on Canada's national swim team, and thought I'd spend my life in sport. And then in graduate school, discovered technology and everything that had to offer. And so I spent the majority of my time building platforms and tools with, my then co-founders. And that's how we got started. The way I landed in partnerships was we had built another platform, software for nonprofits. We like to say that it was like Slack, except worse in every way. And really the only thing that worked in the business was this refer a friend program that we had built. Little did we know that refer a friend program was a partner program, was a different go-to-market channel. And yeah, that's how I landed myself in technology first and then into partnerships.
That's amazing. So when did you start PartnerStack?
Yeah, PartnerStack got started back in 2015. So we had previously built another company. It was called Pod, and this collaboration platform for nonprofits. At the time, I'd actually deemed it good enough idea for me to drop out of grad school and pursue this entrepreneurial itch that I'd had. And, we realized at the end of 2014, after a whole bunch of companies started reaching out to us saying, hey, how did you build your partner channel? That's unique. Kind of said, like, what's that? And we were based in Toronto at the time. And now this is early 2015. We reached out to then the VP of partnerships at Shopify. And this is 2015, early 2015. Shopify was not the Shopify we all know today. It hadn't gone public. It hadn't seen the surge in value that it did after it went public. We knew as Canadians the impact that it was having. But it was a pretty cool moment to have the opportunity to sit down with Travis and him explain, some of the first principles required to build a successful partner program. So that's where PartnerStack got our start. We had customers reaching out to us saying, hey, how did you do that thing? And then we reached out to experts that had built something at scale. And that's when we got started. So after that discussion with Travis, we made the decision, hey, you know what? We should apply after some business incubators and see if there's something here. Went through Y Combinator back in summer 2015. And that was the beginning of this now 10-year journey.
Yeah, and I met Luke along with you, and two of you like a classic co-duo founder. So tell us a little bit about the moment when you kind of came together in 2015-ish kind of timeframe saying, we're going to do this thing.
Yeah, so Luke and I, as well as the other two co-founders, John and Neil, in the business, we've been working together for nearly 18 months beforehand. It was while I was in graduate school, but Luke and I actually met when I was an undergraduate. I was 19. I swam on the swim team. Luke just so happened to live with a bunch of swimmers. And we got to know each other, and we weren't close friends, more like acquaintances. And, in grad school, Luke reached out to me saying, hey, I have this idea to change the way that nonprofits use technology. And I responded to Luke, I was like, hey, I'll do anything except for graduate school work. Why don't you come on down? And so Luke came to town, showed me this 80-page business plan that he had. I rolled my eyes, and we just started working together. I didn't see myself as a co-founder of that business at the time. But what I had said is, this is really just a project until it turns into something. And that's how we've treated everything along the journey. is, we don't have background and experience building technology, or didn't at the time. We didn't have a lot of background on the nonprofit side. And but we were curious. And so we went out and we talked to everybody on the nonprofit side. And the dynamic that we have was like a partnership. And we were fortunate as well to have Neil and John join us and complement us in all different ways. But the reason why PartnerStack, 10 years into the journey, we are where we are today is because of that foundation, that co-founder relationship where you can pick up the phone and call them at any point in time and talk about anything. And, it's really lucky. I know that that's very hard to find, and I do not take it for granted whatsoever.
So let's talk about the moment when you decided that you're going to move into the partnership space from the nonprofit area. What was the napkin or original sort of idea look like at that time?
Yeah, so at the time were working on Pod, we built it up to the point where we were pretty much eating pizza and drinking beer the same way as we did in college, but we just were drinking better beer and eating better pizza. So it hadn't hit the scale that, you would expect inside of a technology company. And we were trying to figure out what's next. We were considering things like, hey, what happens if we went and worked at one of these really fast growing technology companies? And we went through the interview process a handful of times at some of those groups. And we realized that we knew more about the software than even some of the sales reps we were speaking with. And it kind of came to the idea, like, what if you know something really well and you want to refer or recommend that? Like, why do you have to go through an interviewing process? And how true is that statement? Is it beyond just employees? And it was that plus the questions that we were getting from the ISV community at the time, saying, how did you build your refer a friend program, where we put one and one together and realized the big opportunity was, in our view, was how do you make these programs more accessible, and how do you improve the partner experience? Those were the two major factors that we saw. And our take on it at the time was, well, the way you try to do that in the way that we wanted to do that was centralize all the opportunities in one location. We had no idea what it meant. The first version of PartnerStack, we had no tracking, like really nothing more than just a lead form submission that was very rudimentary. The lead would land in the inbox of the partner manager, and it would kind of disappear off into the ether. But it was just the idea that, why can't you send better referrals? And when you do that, why can't you build a world-class experience for the person that is enabling the growth of your business?
Along with the referral piece, if you kind of fast forward a little bit, maybe a couple of years down, I don't know what the time frame is, when did you add other components to that MVP?
Yeah. So the first version of PartnerStack was we launched on Product Hunt back in 2015, and the tagline was like, "Get paid for recommending products you love." Like that was as simple as it was. People created this profile, and partners would go and join, and they would just send these leads over. What we quickly realized was that, B2B technology companies, they have all of this infrastructure, whether it be for, writing code, product management, customer success, sales, marketing, but it really lacked the infrastructure on the partner side. And this was never more evident than on New Year's Eve back in 2015, as we were ringing in 2016. I received a phone call from a partner, and the partner had told me that they were owed $60,000 in commissions for sales that they had made. But the ISV wasn't picking up the phone when they called them, and they needed us to help with this. That's not what we did at the time. We just made the opportunities available. And so it became crystal clear to us in that moment that, though these B2B companies, that they're incredibly sophisticated in their go-to-market motion, they're not very sophisticated in the way they support their partners. And the first version that we thought that needed to go and be solved was that affiliate motion. We thought, hey, affiliate technology, often people refer to affiliate as a business model, but we saw affiliate as this incredible tracking tool and an incentive platform. And so why don't we just take that affiliate technology and say it could do so much more inside of partnerships. Because ultimately, what you are able to go in and draw from that is you can build more top of funnel, especially if you have a product led motion. And people at the time started building out review sites. And that was the first version of functionality that we provided. It was very simple. Everybody got a portal. Everybody who signed up to PartnerStack would join the marketplace. But very importantly, we provided, we leveraged affiliate technology to improve the tracking on both sides of the equation. So there was visibility for the ISV, the partner manager, and there was visibility for the partner.
So let's take that sort of maybe, the first 3 to 5 year horizon. Before that, when I look back, this word affiliate or referral marketing, hosting, and several other products had sort of, a dormant need to have a network of affiliates to drive traffic to their product because their customer acquisition cost was high, so they couldn't go direct. And so when you started, were you similar to a lot of these other referral marketing software, or are you different? And then how did you evolve from that point?
Yeah, at the beginning, we competed a lot more with the refer a friend type products and platforms that were in market. At the time, we saw a lot of gift card rewards and incentives kind of coming onto the market between 2015 and 2018. Everyone thought, hey, I can drive incredible amounts of behavior through these different types of incentives. And we took an opposing view to it. Because when we looked at the data, we realized that many people who were incentivized by gift cards and that type of thing, they were the same people over and over. Whereas if you could actually incentivize, and to be clear, gift cards are incredibly important parts of a partnership journey. The right types of incentives at the right moments, they absolutely do matter. But our belief then was, in order to get more out of this refer a friend type motion versus our competitors, and at the time we, quite frankly, we didn't even know what PRM was. We thought, the foundation of every good relationship and partnerships should be transparency and should be trust. But a layer above that, there needs to be some type of a financial incentive for it. And, there was a moment in time where we actually thought we invented affiliate technology, like truly, like that's how naive we were in this space. And, so that led to what it is that we went and built. Is we took a view that this isn't about gift cards, this is about cash. And the whole idea was Amazon wouldn't pay their partners in Amazon gift cards. Why should you pay your partners in Amazon gift cards? Let's focus this on a commission-based model and let's build from there. And though it's not perfect, and though it doesn't cover all categories, it fit really well in the customer and, problem for that customer we wanted to go in and solve. And it proved to be, the best way for us to start to go to market.
So a lot of founders, the ones that have been successful like you, talk about making pivots. So in any of these transitions, were they pivots or they were more building on what you had done directionally?
All of it was really building on what we had done. When we went through YC in summer 2015, we pitched the idea, like our mission was to build the world's largest sales team. And where we are today, our mission is to change the way the world sells software. We have always been laser focused on supporting the needs of B2B companies because they're so unique, especially in this SaaS world. And every single step along the way, we just learned more about the problem. And it wasn't pivot as much as it was just this incremental build that had the opportunity to unlock exponential upside. And, that takes a long time. Back in 2015, when we went through YC, there was a conversation we were able to have with Sam Altman at the time. And Sam told us, what you're going to do is going to be really hard. And it will take minimum 10 years before you start to see scale. The whole idea of building a network and centralizing opportunities. And he had called out that B2B networks are incredibly challenging to build. And we had no idea what he was talking about. In fact, we kind of laughed walking out of the meeting, thinking like he has no idea what he's saying. He was bang on. Absolutely, building a network, an SaaS-enabled network has turned out to be incredibly challenging. But it's always been the vision, and we've always been driving to that. How do you improve the partner experience? How do you, support bigger and bigger partners? And ultimately, how can you change the way people go to market? That's kind of the order in which we've been solving things.
So let's fast forward a little bit around 2020. COVID happens. What happens to the business? Does it change? Does it accelerate? Like, what did you see from that sort of black swan moment?
Yeah. So what was interesting between 2015 and 2020 is I think, laughed out of every single VC meeting that I ever went to. Though I had this belief of the power of partnerships, no one else believed it. I remember going to a partner pitch, 60-minute pitch. I'm going to go deep on what's there. And a minute into the pitch, the VC used some very direct language to explain to me that I was wasting my time, his time, and anybody who used our platform's time, because why would you spend money in partnerships when instead you could just build a bigger direct sales team that will provide bigger returns? And so that was the general sentiment in the B2B space between 2015 and the beginning of COVID. And then COVID happened. And when borders shut down and we were locked in our homes, people realized they needed to go to market and get in front of customers in different ways, right? Also, the surge of demand of B2B during that time accelerated things even further. But it was in that moment where people realized, partnerships is about getting in front of customers you can't reach, getting in front of customers that you would never have a conversation with. And the customers that you can reach, actually being the partners had the ability to service those customers after the fact. We know the numbers, every single metric from partnerships. You're talking bigger ACV, longer LTV, the retention is higher, the experience is better for the end customer. I think even if you get in from an NPS side of things, most customers who come through the partner model and do the integrations, their NPS is even higher. And so, that was the turning point. The market started to accept and understand the power of partnerships and the scale it provided. It certainly helped that companies like HubSpot and companies like Shopify that had been in market now and matured in public markets were showing that their partnership revenue was driving a lot of their growth. Not all, but an increasing portion of their growth. And so we all asked ourselves at the time, how do we become like these leading businesses? And that was the unlock moment when we realized that, we're not just arguing about how do you build the biggest direct sales team. We're actually talking about how do you build a scalable, efficient, resilient go-to-market channel. And partnerships provides just that.
Yeah, I mean, greater part of my career in the first half of it, at least, it was all hardware centric, and there was no way you could sell direct except if you're selling to Boeing or some other, large manufacturers. So automatically, hardware, when it came to IT, went through a fulfillment channel. When the software came around, if it was shrink wrapped, it was still a thing. So you sold it to a distributor who carried inventory. But when SaaS happened, you realized that, hey, I can reach the end customer direct. So do you think because of that, people devalued partnership, maybe in the early formation of software? And what was the pivot point? Was it really COVID or there other intrinsic drivers along with it that you think people started to say, hey, even in case of SaaS, I need partnership?
Yeah. I mean, I think that you absolutely nailed it. Between 2015 and 2020, the people who we learned from were people that built go-to-market motions through the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s before the SaaS business model really changed what partnerships could and potentially, ultimately would become. Because we saw and we learned more from those people about what that opportunity looked like than anything. So the first moment I think that really changed partnerships was, when Salesforce built SaaS and got it to commercial scale and showed everybody what's possible. The second moment that we saw was COVID. And the third moment that we've seen actually has been this PLG driven motion. PLG specifically in SaaS means that, the best partnerships aren't just about sales. The best partnerships actually rely on partners to help, integrate multiple solutions all together at the same time, which is exactly what these hardware channel partners used to go in and do. And the opportunity that was created with PLG and with an understanding that there's all these software products in market, just it changed who a channel partner is. And I think Jay McBain talks about this a lot, of the evolution of the channel. There's so many people that wouldn't identify as channel partners, but they effectively are today. And so this top of funnel partner came to be, and this was through like review sites and everything there. And that wave is a wave that we continue to still see emerging and growing. But that would be the other major change of the value of top of funnel partners, the influence partner that is there, and the power that it brings to a go-to-market motion.
So let's talk about now, 2025. Please share a little bit about like what does your solution look like, the key components of it, and what does your ICP look like?
Yeah, so the key components of our solution is we provide like an ecosystem management platform. We support different sales motions, some better than others. We're focused very much on that top of funnel partner, that influence partner, that affiliate partner. And those influence and affiliate partners, that can be anything from a review site to a community forum to a podcaster, and all the way down to an accountant, bookkeeper, or consultant. We do not discriminate there. People use links, and we enable those links to be used to track leads, signups, and sales, and we facilitate the payout. There's also different sales motions that we support. The referral based sales motion, but our bread and butter is tracking the lead, signups, and sales, and facilitating the payout. The biggest difference between PartnerStack in 2025 today versus PartnerStack, call it at the beginning of COVID, is the beginning of COVID, our network was more vision than it was reality. The users and buyers that had come onto PartnerStack back then, we tried to make it crystal clear: you're coming for the tool, and we hope you stay for the network. And what's happened today, when we look at the underlying drivers of our business, is the network is really taking over. We view ourselves more as a platform or an ecosystem for distribution than being like a traditional PRM. We do not do custom portals, right? Like there's custom experiences and custom portals that is completely outside of our domain expertise. We are very much so about demand gen and driving new partners that you might otherwise never would have worked with, and then facilitating the tracking and payout behind that behavior.
And that's a great segue. I mean, I think that's why, you and us kind of overlap a little bit. You're top of the funnel. We're sort of middle at the bottom when it comes to co-sell, co-keep, the entire lifecycle management. That's why, even though we belong to the category called partner relationship management, but we're managing different parts of that life cycle. But let's come back to the network a little bit, because it's a very powerful thing. So can you kind of tell us a little bit, what is that network? What does it have? How do you feed it? How do you nurture it? How do you grow it? What's happening there?
Yeah, so our whole thesis was, when we talk to most companies, everybody wants to find the right partner. And everybody thinks they know who that right partner is. Back in 2015, we used to track, the number of discovery conversations we'd have with prospects who were really informing what our product roadmap would go and be. And one of the things that we noticed is that, one of the biggest challenges was, how do I recruit and activate a partner? And who should that partner go and be? And we saw time and time again people spending unbelievable amounts of budget to go and meet partners in person, potential partners in person, who would never activate, who would, put a lot of money and resources and time, for that matter, into getting that agreement signed with, you name the major provider, only for it to never drive any type of revenue. And so today, what PartnerStack does is we have two user types. We have B2B ISVs, vendors, and that's where the partnership managers and marketing managers go in to manage their partners. And we have this other user type called partners. And these partners are anything from affiliate partners to referral partners. We certainly have some co-sell partners that focus on top and mid-funnel there. But we can track the activity of the partner, and we can say, hey, ISV, hey, partner manager, we know you work with these types of partners, but have you considered working with these types of partners? Because according to our data, there's really strong overlap. These partners sell and recommend products at this type of conversion rate, and it's this type of ACV, and it's complementary to like X, Y, and Z, and we think you should try it. And it doesn't always work, but more and more it does, because we have the liquidity in market. We anonymize our data and use that data to drive better and better partnerships. And so it's still very early days. There's many more things for us to go in and do, but that's one of the primary use cases in our platform today.
That's amazing. I'm going to come back to this because there are opportunities for AI in there. You and I talked about that, but let's talk about the third component, which last year when you and I were chatting and you brought up, and I thought, wow, that's a big idea. You said, a lot of affiliate network, they do payment management. And
Yep.
you're like, okay, transaction wise, that's okay. But you go above and beyond that, this whole piece of fraud management, other pieces that you do. So talk to us a little bit about the entire integrity tied to payment. What does it include? What are the pieces of it? How do you provide, sustaining value in there? What's your role?
Yeah, our role is to be the honest broker. Our goal is to do tracking, attribution, and flag things that can be fraudulent. And it's a very tricky role and is one that we take to heart because, the moment you turn on payments inside of your business, whether you have a partnership motion or whether you do not have a partnership motion, at some size, stage, and scale, you will experience fraud through your platform. And the same thing is true with partnerships. And so for us, it starts with, do we have data about this partner? And if we have data about this partner, can we say this partner is who they say they are? And once they say that, can we provide the tools and tracking behind it to, as best as possible? And I'm not saying it happens 100% of the time because certainly in every single go-to-market motion, there's an element of challenges that come into play. But our whole goal is to hit 100% tracking and reporting, and we put processes in place when technology fails. So there's the ability to identify who the partner is, identify their traffic source, flag whether something is fraudulent for the partner manager. We have the ability on the partner side to say, hey, these types of ISVs, like they either pay out when they say they're going to pay out or they do not, because it matters on both sides of that equation. And then we're able to say, not only can we track accuracy, we can track quality and show net new opportunity. And so that's really the core focus in what it is that we do. Not only, though, do we facilitate payments on first transaction, because we've been so obsessed about B2B, we have the ability, and in the integrations that we go in and do, we have the ability to track and reward the entire life cycle of the customer journey. Everything from, marketing qualified lead down to sales qualified lead, all the way to sales conversion, upgrade, downgrade. We track usage, and a partner manager has the ability to reward the partner at every single step and every single stage of a customer journey. That is more than just, closing a sale, sending more leads, doing upsell. It can even be down to like marketing development funds. Hey, like that can be something that can be tracked, paid out, and monitored through PartnerStack.
So payment is a big word. There's taxes involved into it. There are countries involved into it. So can you talk a little bit about like the scope of the payment solution? Is it, US, Canada? Is it broader? Tell us a little bit.
Yeah, the way it started it wasn't pretty. We really facilitated payments just through PayPal way back in the day, and we were just trying to do our absolute best. Really, we only had the way of processing USD to USD, which provided like a lot of challenges, especially when paying cross border. Specific countries have specific tax needs and requirements. If you don't pay them out correctly, which many partnership managers don't do, you are bringing a lot of liability into a go-to-market channel that isn't required. So PartnerStack handles all payments. I forget how many payment types we now support, but it's dozens of countries and dozens of currencies that we can go in and handle. And the important thing inside of that is we don't just facilitate the payments. We facilitate the payments and payouts in a tax compliant way. One of the fastest ways to kill a partnership team inside of a large organization is to have the CFO show up and say, hey, we've discovered that there's some type of liability in XYZ country, and partnerships is responsible for driving that. We want to get in front of that. And so it's not the easiest way. It's not always like the fastest way, but it is the right way to go in and do it. And so we tied deeply into CRMs, into payment gateways. There's a million which ways that partner managers have the ability to pay out partners because partners across different geographies have different requirements. We also ensure that partners aren't getting paid in geographies that they're not allowed to get paid in, which is a huge, huge challenge. And so it's a very complex system. The truth is, I think if we were to roll things back to 2015 and we were to know full well how hard it would be to solve payments, we probably never would have done it. It's very complicated. To build a platform that has, some level of SaaS with the network and can facilitate payments in a really complicated way, that is a 10-year journey. And we're finally getting to a size, stage, and scale where we're able to meet that. But we effectively built 3 different businesses at the same time. And it turned out to be valuable in about 2021, 2022, when we started meeting the needs of the market. But we know that there's just so much more for us to go in and do. And ultimately, we want to insert PartnerStack deeper and deeper in that commerce layer, not just where we're able to help drive top of funnel, but actually facilitate the payments and payouts of, everything SaaS related.
And I can relate to that, how hard it is. 10 years ago, had we known from our perspective how hard it would be to build a workflow automation tool, possibly wouldn't have started. But now that you get into it, you understand pain points and everything else. And that's why our customers overlap, right? Because we have several customers. I know our sales team give each other leads. And thank you to your sales team also for those. But that's where the synergy is. But I want to go back a little bit about, your growth story now, because I hear from our customers, I see, in the marketplace, what are the drivers for growth? Where is it coming from? Going back to Sam Altman, I guess a few years ago, he said, there'll be one person building $1 billion company using AI. And then I've heard other analysts say there will be 1 million ISVs, right? So when you think about what's happening in the marketplace now and the way productivity is going up, I can see in my development team, it has gone up 30%, 40%, 50% by using these AI tools. So what's your take on, we'll talk about AI in your solution, but let's just talk about it as a change driver. That plus what else are you seeing from a growth driver perspective?
Yeah, I think that specifically on AI, I think agents are going to have a role inside of partnerships. And I think that it's going to be exactly what we've seen across different domains. It's going to be about unlocking time so they can focus on the highest value, most important thing inside of their partnership experience. I think that there's probably a world where on an AI front, we actually can potentially build custom experiences for different partner types in real time. And the platform has the ability to adjust accordingly. That's not where we've put our resources. Our resources have been about matching the right vendor with the right partner. And so there are, hundreds of different data points that we can see that ultimately drive that right type of match. Everything from, traffic to site, to activity on LinkedIn, just to mentions online, all the way down to when at a partnership level, when you see the total number of people in the partnership organization, the time and seat of the leader in the partner manager, all of those things are so, not easy to track, but today they're much easier to pull and aggregate. And where we focus a lot of our AI efforts isn't on, many of the third party or the first party data and doing, it's actually using the data that is unique inside of PartnerStack to make the right type of matching. We tracked over $600 million in software sales last year, 4 million leads, conversion rate of 11+%. When you look at it on an aggregated basis, there's just a lot of details that are there that can show not only who you should partner with at the right time, but then how to get the most out of that partnership. So for example, if you have a very successful partner, the tendency is, hey, how do I better service them? They might get some incremental lift. I got to go find a new partner. Where in reality, what we've actually seen is one of the fastest ways to grow your partner program is to go to the partners that are successful and double, triple, quadruple your efforts and investment to drive more from that partnership before turning a net new one online. And there are very specific ways in which that can occur. And because we track in aggregate and can make these like aggregated based recommendations through our AI, it drives incredible amounts of growth and creates net new connections that would never otherwise exist. And quite frankly, the connections that do exist can actually point people to opportunities to double down investments in ways they previously didn't think was possible. A specific example around that is, a partner or an ISV might pay out a partner for the lifetime of the account, but it might actually make more sense to pay the partner out more upfront. Might make more sense for the partner because they receive payment more upfront. Might make more sense for the ISV because maybe it improves, their payback period over the course of a 1 or 2 year window. And so there's a multitude of ways that we can see and can make recommendations behind that will ultimately unlock new growth for all people in partnerships.
So I want to double click on a couple of words you said. One is success, second is growth. So let's talk about from a success metrics wise, when you look at your community on the brand side, do you see patterns where they become successful because they do certain things? And then let's talk about the partner side, reseller side or affiliate side. Do you see patterns that make them successful?
Yes, absolutely. I don't know what you see and would love to learn as well, but in the brand and the ISV B2B vendor side, one of the most important metrics we look at is, can an ISV, can a B2B vendor, can that partnership manager get 50 partners into their program? If you can get 50 partners into your program, and they don't have to all be activated, very importantly, but if you can recruit 50 partners to your program, the likelihood of your program launching and being successful is, it is extraordinary how much higher it is than if you have like 30 or 40 partners in that program. And we were kind of exploring why that could go and be the case. But it's ultimately what we found today is if you have 50 accepted partners into your program, it is a very high correlation to having a partnership manager working at their partnership team on a full-time basis. It also has, a high propensity for that partnership manager to be managing both inbound and outbound partnerships. You have to put a sign on your landing page that says we're open for business. Companies that think that partners are going to, jump through hoops for them, there's only so many hoops they're willing to go in and do. And you have to be able to identify potential net new partners that are out there. And so that is an incredibly important metric that we go and see is those first 50 partners. Now, at size and scale, what you're looking for is partner engagements, right? On an average engagement per partner on a year-over-year basis. The partners that grow the most are the ones that have the most engagements. And engagement can be measured from outreach and touch point to actually inbound from the ISV or the B2B vendor to inbound requests from partners. And then the most basic version of it is, what is your response time to your partners, right? Like so many B2B companies and partners for that matter, they just stop talking to each other. And I get it. You're busy with management asking you to do a million things. You've got 80 different jobs that you need to go in and do as a partnership manager. The partners, they're trying to service their clients. They're trying to work across different pieces of software that they want to go in and recommend. But the moment engagement and communication falls off the cliff, it is absolutely where partnerships die. And so the most successful companies that are at size and scale, you see on an average basis annually, partner engagements increase on a per vendor, per partner basis.
Yeah, so going back to the question you kind of asked, this is why we overlap. We tend to be helpful with our customers when they have an established, partner program and at least few hundred partners, because we deal with workflow automation and complexities, different groups, different profiles, different solutions. Going back to your word custom, even though we have a configurable platform, they want to deploy custom programs. So that's why we see the overlap, because on your side, you're trying to help them build velocity. And as they grow, as they start getting different types of resellers, that's where they start looking at us. And that's why you and I have talked about like putting things together so that, because there are things you do we'll never do. And then things we do are very different from what you do. So there is that little overlap. But I also want to go back a little bit, Bryn, talk about your journey. I'm looking at the time here. So, but before I get into that, talk to us a little bit about where is PartnerStack going in your mind next 5 years?
Yeah, so the beginning in PartnerStack, we really only serviced early stage companies. Seed stage customers were the first set of clients that we had in and on our platform. And that's because those are the people that would pick up the phone and speak with us, quite frankly. And we've seen some of those customers come on board and become massively successful businesses, some of whom have actually IPO'd. And we've been very fortunate to go along in that journey. Then we started to move into the mid-market, handle more complex motions. And where we're going now is we're meeting some of the biggest companies and biggest customers who are leaning into, the modern partner. We're able to go in and service them. And the whole idea was, companies don't use different Salesforce's instances to manage mid-market SMB enterprise. They use one. And for us, we believe we can be that one in the partner type and in a specific partner type and segment. We recognize that partner teams are going to have, various pieces of technology, sometimes using, like we said, like both of our platforms. And we're here for it. And where we're driving is servicing bigger and bigger upmarket opportunities where people really want to tap into that opportunity that we provide in the way that we do it. But we're not going to ever go in and do is build things like custom workflows and custom instances. We recognize that's a very different pain point. And we think that, folks like yourself do a great job of that.
So thank you. So let's come back to Bryn as a founder and talking about YC. One of the great discussion that they always have this notion called founder mode. So I would love to hear your reflection over the last 10 years. What were the moments that you had to switch from kind of the CEO mode to a founder mode and back and forth? And what drove you to it? What did you learn from it? I'd love to kind of hear that.
Founder mode is so tricky. Truthfully, so much of moving into founder mode comes out of immediately following like a financing event. And we've done several financing events. You operate as though you're CEO, you're driving strategy. We went and raised capital. That's not always a requirement when you're going and doing it. There's many different ways to go in and build the business. But the path that we've been on is let's bring in capital partners to help us, with strategy and capitalize the growth of our business. And that forces you into a different type of mode. And then when you close financing, you then immediately turn back into founder mode. What I've learned founder mode is it's being able to adapt to the needs of the market and the needs of your team at any point. And so founder mode is forever changing. Founder mode when, it was hard for companies to grow because there were so many opportunities in the world is different than founder mode, when SVB collapses. And what I have found is that you need to look at what's about to happen versus what is happening to determine what gear of founder mode you need to be in. And you need to know and trust the things that you know. And so for us, we know that we service B2B vendors. We know that our goal is to improve the partner experience. And we believe in the power of the network. And so founder mode is about saying no to the things that aren't aligned with your vision more than it is finding the next new shiny thing. Founder mode's about recognizing where the market's going and being ready for that while balancing the needs of today. And founder mode is challenging. But you have to come in with that mindset of how can I improve every single day in order to meet the needs and exceed the needs of your customers.
That is simply amazing. So, Bryn, I know our team is talking to yours. We're rolling out these customer roadshows. I'd love to have you there. There's one in Austin, even though the speaker panel is full. There's another one in Tampa, then it's Denver. I think it will be amazing to get on the road together and talk and educate customers and partners, how the word PRM and how we all fit together. But thank you for being here. It's been an amazing hour. I'd love to have you back.
Thank you for everything, for the invitation. And most importantly, thank you for the work that we're doing together. I think that, that's the opportunity to unlock the power of partnerships. We have to drink our own champagne, eat our own dog food, any version of what you want to say. And thank you for being the leader that's driving that.
You're welcome. Thank you.